as usual, coming back from work, I didn't felt good and I just slept. And I woke up with high fevers, and they called us after a few days saying that I need to get admitted to the hospital because there is some kind of unusual activity showing up in CT scans. One day they did a skin punch biopsy, which turned out to be that I had stage 4 rare blood cancer named subcutaneous panniculitis T cell lymphoma. First chemo happened, second chemo happened. I started losing my hair, eyebrows, everything. I felt like I have nothing in my body left. And it was easy for me to let go my hair because I belong to a Sikh community, a Sikh culture. I did lost my fertility. I was thrown into early menopause. Why is it's such a huge stigma or a taboo when it comes to health or critical illness or cancer?
Welcome to Miss Minds, the postcards where stories meet strength and real conversations spark deeper thinking. I'm your host Shilpa, and today's episode is not just about resilience, it's about reinvention. Imagine uprooting your life to chase dreams across continents, from UK to Dubai and finally to Canada. Harjeet Kaur did just that, embracing new cultures, building a career, and envisioning a future filled with promises. But in 2019, life threw an unexpected challenge her way, a diagnosis of stage 4 rare and aggressive blood cancer. Amidst the isolation of COVID-19 pandemic, she underwent a stem cell transplant, spending 32 days in solitude, drawing strength from within. Yet, Harjeet's story isn't solely about survival. It's about transformation. Emerging from adversity, she became a beacon of hope, founding Chai and Hope to support cancer patients and break cultural stigmas. Beyond her advocacy, she's a storyteller, a traveler, a lover of music and art, and someone who finds joy in the simple pleasures of life. Today, we delve into the life of Harjeet Kaur, not just the survivor, but the thriver, the advocate, and the women defining resilience. Ma'am, hearty welcome to our show, Miss Minds.
Thank you, Shilpa, for the great introduction. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me this space to talk about cancer.
Yes. So, I really want to know what your entire journey was, but let me break it into parts so that it becomes easy for our audience also to understand and to know what exactly to do when such a crisis comes into their life. So, before your diagnosis, you lived in the UK, Dubai, and then Canada. How did these diverse experiences shape your worldwide view and aspirations?
So I lived in 3 different countries at the very young age. So I'm originally from India, from north part of India. I'm born and brought up in Kanpur. My in-laws are based in Ambala, and I moved to London for my studies back in 2008 in my early 20s. And so I think, and since then I have been out. I did came back to India and then went back to Dubai again. So for me, it was more like, learning different culture, getting that experience and exposure. And also, being an immigrant there, the life has, the life shows you that challenges. So you become that independent person when you actually, travel all across, outside of India. Because when you're in India, you're with your family, you're with your loved ones, you're always being pampered and taken care of. But I think the true learning is when you move out of that safe, safe space, and you learn from your mistakes and you learn how to live independence. So those were the things I learned. UK taught me independence. Dubai taught me, ambition and career. And I think Canada gave me purpose. So those were the three things I believe that, I've learned from these different countries.
That's awesome. Having such wide experiences from 3 different countries. So, Harjeet, tell me, you're already out of India, away from your loved ones, from everyone you know, from your comfort zone, and then you get hit by a news that almost can break anyone. And when that happens, as an individual, I can say that I don't know how much time will I take to process it, forget, thinking about the diagnosis in a country totally different from where I am brought up. It can be really daunting, physically as well as emotionally. So, can you share how you navigated the emotional and physical challenges during that
So,
period, especially during, it was a global pandemic back then. So, can you tell us in detail
I,
about everything connected?
yes. So I moved to Canada along with my husband back in 2018, and every immigrant has a dream of settling down in a new country, having a life, having a family, having a career. So, everything was going smoothly, and we were having good time in, this new country. I was in Edmonton that time. That's in Alberta. And then in 2019, I started having fevers. That was May 2019. And I was, as usual, coming back from work. I didn't felt good and I just slept. And I woke up with high fevers. And over here, things are a little different than India. You have your family doctor. You have to go to emergency. You can't just walk into any clinic like that. So I had the family doctor. We went to see her. She said that it looks like viral or a flu. Go home, take Tylenol. Tylenol is similar to paracetamol or what medication you do in India, right, for fever. So it was something like that. She gave me, and 1 week passed by of fever, 2 weeks passed by of fever. Nothing showed on my blood work. So we were really advocating hard to get the CT scan, the PET scan, or something else. But things doesn't work like that. Like you can just go pay money and get the scans done. Over here, things are differently because it's a public healthcare system. So we had to wait almost for like 4 weeks to get a CT scan. And then I went for a CT scan, and so she actually referred me to infectious disease specialist, and I went to see him, and he said the same thing. Harjeet, it looks like viral or a flu. Your blood work is not showing anything, and we can't just give you a CT scan. And my husband advocated a lot because it was just both of us in this country, and we had no idea how to navigate the healthcare system over here. As an immigrant, we were so new that we had no idea, how can we move to next step. And at that time, we really fought hard. CT scan was done in 2019 June, and they called us after few days saying that I need to get admitted to the hospital because there is some kind of unusual activity showing up in CT scan. So they want to do more test and scan. So I was admitted to hospital for from June until September. I only had fevers, nothing else. And since I was in hospital, I started having ulcers. My body started swelling up. I started getting chills. I could not eat anything. I used to get blackout most of the time. My husband was working because you have to pay your bills over here. So he was working, he was taking care of me. It was so overwhelming for both of us at that time that we need to reach out to our family back home so my mom can fly over here. And she flew over here in August, 20th August around. And my brother was here. He was studying. He moved to the same city where I was. And finally, so I was so sick that we planned of going back to India in August 2019. And all of a sudden, so I had everything. Like I had laparoscopy, colonoscopy, I had breast biopsy, I had bone marrow biopsy, I had CT scan, PET scan, MRI, you name it, I had it. For 2.5 months, I had everything, but there was nothing showing on my blood work or any kind of scans. The doctors over here were also not sure what is going on. And we used to send everything to India because my family stays in India. I have a family doctor back home in India. So that's how it all started. And finally, one day, they did a skin punch biopsy, which turned out to be that I had stage 4 rare blood cancer named subcutaneous panniculitis T cell lymphoma. So I remember 28th of August 2019, the doctors walked into the room at 3 o'clock and they said, "We want you to stay. We don't want you to go back because we got the diagnosis." And at that moment, when she said, "You have subcutaneous panniculitis T cell lymphoma," I was like, "What is it?" I had no idea what she was talking about. And she's like, it's stage 4 rare blood cancer. And at that moment, I felt my whole world is paused. Like, I just had that kind of a feeling, it's over. Because I was just 32 at that time. And my mom was just standing next to me, and I could see tears rolling her eyes, and I could not react. I could not react. I just went to that zone where I was completely numb. Hearing those words at the age of 32 that you have cancer is something you don't want to listen to at that early age of 30s. So that's how the treatment started. The cancer was so aggressive that they had to start the treatment ASAP because my condition was really bad. And we wanted to have a second opinion. So I reached out to my family back home in India who are doctors. They said us that don't bring her back. Get the treatment started ASAP because the cancer is so rare. By the time she'll come back, you might not have time. So they started the treatment ASAP in 2019, August. Chemotherapy is obviously the common treatment we all go through. I started the treatment. The most difficult part was to reach out to my family back home in India, my dad, my extended family, which my husband and my mom took the step to talk to everyone. And I completely was in that zone where I felt like my life has just flipped and I don't know how to deal with it. And I was not able to share anything because I felt if I melt down in front of my family, I'll not be able to take care of them. And I don't want to show them that, I am scared. But I was shit scared, honestly. Like I used to cry when I was alone. I used to feel that it's everything is over. So that was the time. Chemo started. First chemo happened, second chemo happened. I started losing my hair, eyebrows, everything. I felt like I have nothing in my body left. And it was not easy for me to let go my hair because I belong to a Sikh community, a Sikh culture. So I didn't let go my hair until second or third chemo. And I remember my oncologist mentioning my husband that Harjeet needs to let go her hair. She can't keep the hair. And I just had that feeling, what if I shaved my head? How would my family react? How would they react? How would my dad be able to see that? But one day, my husband shaved his head at the balcony of our apartment, and he made me sat there and he shaved my head. So that was the time when I shaved my head after 3 chemos. Chemo was not going very well. I still had fevers. Fevers were not stopping because I had a condition called HLH, which is an autoimmune disease. So my body was fighting with cancer along with HLH condition. So basically, I had two armies in a layman language running inside my body who were getting treated with chemo, but both the armies were fighting against each other. So my chemo was not actually working. And I remember doctors came into the room and they said, Harjeet, what's your appetite? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, what do you want to do? And I just said, I want to live. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I don't know what to do. And he said, I just have two options for you. One, either we keep on giving you chemo. Second, we can try stem cell transplant, which will give you a little life longer, but I can't say 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. And at that moment, honestly, I really felt we're just trying our best to treat me. There's nothing left. And at that time, I used to Google a lot of things. Honestly, everybody does that. And every time I used to Google my cancer, it used to tell me that I don't have much life left. Like I just have 5 months, 6 months left. And that made me more scared, thinking that we are trying our best to treat me, but we don't know what will happen. So all those things happened in 2019. So I was prepping for 2020 stem cell transplant. During that time, I did lost my fertility. I was thrown into early menopause. I stopped having my periods and I had this question. And then they told me my condition was so sick that they didn't have much time to do anything about it. And I was thrown into early menopause at the age of 32, which I still grieve about it because I feel I don't know how to, address that, but that is one thing at that moment happened, and no one was there to talk to me about it, even my family. And I had a bit of a fight with my husband, and he's like, Harjeet, Our purpose was to save you, not, not to see about that. So that happened. And then we were prepping for stem cell transplant. My brother was my donor. He was 100% match. That's very rare to found. So I don't know if you know much about stem cell transplant or not, but a lot of transplant patients needs donors, and generally it goes on the pool on the global side of it, and then they look for that transplant donor. It takes 4 months, 6 months, even a year for a transplant patient to get a good donor. But I was really lucky that my younger brother was my donor. He was 100% match. So they started prepping me for that. Jan and Feb, I used to have more aggressive chemo so that I could bring it to, they can bring me to partial remission. And during that time, I lost my right eye vision because of the drugs, the chemo drugs. And my immune system was so immunocompromised that I got CMV retinitis, which damaged the retina of my right eye and which cannot come back. So they had to actually inject my left eye along with chemo every week so that the virus cannot go to my left eye. So those months, Jan and Feb, were really terrible for me. Like it was like horrible days for me, and I was just losing hope every single day at that time. March 2020 was the time when they told me that they'll do my stem cell transplant. And we got a call, I think 17th or 18th March 2020, we got a call saying that, Harjeet, we have to extend the treatment because COVID has happened. It's a global pandemic. We are not prepared for it. We don't know anything. As you know, the world was in the pause moment where they don't know what to do and how to do. And at that moment, they said, we will let you know. And I got fevers again. I used to get fevers again and again. It never stopped. And they thought that it might be COVID. So they did my test. And luckily, it was not COVID at that time. It was some virus or a flu. So they treated me for that. And finally, I was told that 6th of April, 2020, I'll be admitted to the hospital by myself, no family, no husband, no one is allowed. Harjeet needs to get her treatment done by herself. So I stayed in hospital for almost 30 to 35 days from 6th April until May 2020. And honestly, I still don't know how I did it. 6th of April, I really felt that this is the last time I'm seeing them. I hugged them and I felt that maybe this is it. It's time that I might not survive or I might not come back. But those 30, 35 days were so, so difficult for me. It was like I was praying for life every single day. I literally came from a deathbed. Like I had chemo every single day. I had radiations. It's like 7 days nonstop chemo. My body started losing everything. I I went down to 40, 42 kilos. I had feeding tube. I had oxygen pipe. I was on painkiller pump, fentanyl. So, and the only hope was to live next day, to see my family. I used to do FaceTime. I remember at that time I used to do FaceTime to them. And that was the only hope to me, right? Just to get up next morning and to see them. And I could not see mornings as well because I was on fentanyl, which was like opioid, where you don't have any senses, whether it's night or so. If I think back to those 35 days, it still gives me goosebumps. And I don't know how I made it through because it was not easy. And I always tell my husband that I don't want to go back to that time. And at that moment, I did wrote something for my family thinking, what if I don't go back from here? What if I don't see them? I just wanted to tell them that how grateful I was for them to be there for me. And, without them, it wouldn't have been possible. But one thing which was missing was a talk between us. We never talked. The support was amazing. I mean, I wouldn't have done without them. But we never talked about our pain, our experience. Cancer affected not only me, it affected the whole family, but we never spoke about it. So that made me more, that I need to share this. So when I came back, I was completely bedridden. I was not able to walk, not able to do anything. Imagine a 33-year-old girl, and her 56-year-old mother is taking care of her. And I used to feel that it should be opposite. I had to take care of her. So she was taking care of me, changing clothes for me, giving me shower, and doing everything. So no, it was not an easy journey, honestly. But here I am today. It's been 5 years. I just completed my 5 years on 14th of April 2025, and cancer free, and it's a huge milestone. It's a huge milestone for me and even for my team over here, because they tell me that they haven't found anyone yet with my type of cancer in Canada, and they had no idea that I would be here today. So that's a huge milestone for me now.
I I really don't have any words to understand what you went through because even to think about something so life-threatening and then to survive that, I've never thought about it. So yes, huge salute to you to stand through that time and keep that hope alive, which most of us lose in the process when things
Yeah.
get.
And I also lost in middle, like, I had that days or moments where I felt that there's no way out. But I think it was the support of my family, the love of my family, which made me live every day.
Uh, Harjeet, we don't usually speak about cancer or its treatments or anything aligned with that, especially in our country. But while you were talking, you mentioned that your treatment involved a segment called stem cell transplant. I had heard a little about it, but can you tell us in detail that how did stem cell transplant became a lifesaver for you, and how can cancer patients use this technology to treat themselves in India, because it is rarely known to people. So can you educate us about this a little bit?
So, stem cell transplant is not for all cancer patients. It's basically depending on what kind of cancer you have. Because I had blood cancer, a rare blood cancer, and the HLH condition. So, I had to go for a stem cell transplant. But I know a lot of blood cancer patients goes through stem cell transplant. So, I had no knowledge about it till the time I got it. So, what I learned during my whole experience was how it works is so there are two types of stem cell transplant. One, your transplant is done by your own immune cells, like your own immune cells can being given to you as a kind of IV, and then other one is through a donor. So I was through a donor by my brother. So basically, the 7 days of chemo and radiation which were given to me was to kill my immune system, to make it zero, because their plan was to give me my donor immune system. So my brother stem cells were given to me. It Nowadays technology and the medical advancement has been so great that it's not like back in times 20 years ago. So it was like IV, where you just so I remember, so they were giving me his stem cells. So how it worked on him was they took out some blood and they actually took out the stem cells, and so that's how they preserved his stem cell for me, and they gave me on 14th of April 2020. So sometime body can reject the new donor cells, and which is very risky for patients for 100 days. So my body could have rejected my brother's cell, but it didn't, so it worked for me. But I have seen patients whose body doesn't accept those donor cells. So this is a very simple process. So I don't know in India, but in Canada we have a stem cell registry where people can go and donate their stem cells for free of cost. So which goes on the pool. So if hospital need a stem cell donor, they'll reach out to them and they'll use that stem cells to treat patient. So for me, because my brother was my donor, they preserved his stem cell for another 10, 15 years, thinking if my cancer gets relapse, they can reuse it. So that's how it worked. And it's not even in our country. A lot of people over here in Canada, honestly, South Asian, they don't have knowledge about it. I did recently a collaboration with Gurudwara over here, because they were looking for someone who can be a donor for 65 years old men. But because in Canada, there are only 8% of South Asian people who are registered, so which was not a match for him. So they were looking for more people to come and register. So I did a collaboration with Gurudwara and the South Asian community over here, where I talked about my journey, my story, how stem cells saved my life. And they did a drive, a blood drive. A Canadian Blood Services did a drive, and we had 1,100 people came to register for stem cell. So that knowledge, I think in India or whether we are outside, I think we need to educate ourselves about that. I think it's being done now. Newborns who are born in India or anywhere, doctors do inform them about preserving their stem cells so that it can be used for in future. So I think it's just the kind of education and awareness piece which we really need to talk about. So till the time I was diagnosed, I had no knowledge. So this is all because of my experience of the treatment I've gone through. I have that knowledge now.
And this is something we should talk about in India because I've seen a lot of patients of who has this deadly disease. All they know about is chemotherapy and radiation, and that is so scary.
Yeah.
Personally seen few people who've lost their hair and the skin changes, the appetite changes, the look changes, and it is very
It
scary.
happened in stem cell too. It happens in stem cell too because it's the same process. I mean, I had chemo and radiation first for first half for my cancer and then second again. So I had twice chemos, right? And radiation too. But it's just that it's a hope of, getting that life back from a stem cell transplant and for people who can donate their stem cells because it's an easy process. It's not that you have to go through any physical pain. It's like just giving your blood, you know, and then the medical team will work on it. So I think it's just the knowledge. I think I remember when my brother was my stem cell donor, my mom had this question: will this affect him physically in long run? I think it was just an indicate because she was scared, because that's what we portray in our movies or XYZ things, right? How this works. So I think that's very important to educate people that it's not what you see. This is how it works. And I think our medical team or healthcare team in India, they should actually talk about it. The doctors, the specialists should talk about it.
Definitely, they should. And I believe we should be having more seminars or conferences and, collaborations where we
Yeah,
talk more about this and educate the present
yeah.
generation at least. Harjeet,
And this happened over here a lot. I think I haven't seen in India. I do a lot of conferences and events and seminars, but when I was back home in India 2 months back, I didn't see a lot of these conferences and seminars and the education piece. And I don't know why.
we don't. I stay in India, but hearing so much about these life-threatening diseases, but never about. Yes, I did read
Yeah,
about a few articles about stem cell transplant here and there, but not so commonly talked about. Harjeet, while
yeah,
we
yeah.
talk,
Even cancer.
yes, yes, definitely.
Sorry. Yeah,
So there's one more thing that while you were talking, you mentioned that you went through early menopause. So before we talk about early menopause, in India, we don't even talk about the menopause, the symptoms, and the issues women face. It is, how do I explain? It is such a taboo to talk about, periods, menopause, and all these things. So
yeah,
how do you talk about it so openly and how do you discuss these things so openly? Because people here don't, women here don't. We don't even say periods word so clearly, and here we are talking about early menopause.
yeah.
So what was it? How did you deal with it? And why did it happen? So,
So, so one thing I learned, obviously, I'm in a country where we have freedom of speech. We can talk and share whatever we want, right? And in India, since my childhood, we never talked about periods. We never talked about, my mom gone through menopause at certain age. I had no idea what was menopause at that time. But I think it all came into picture when I was thrown into menopause and when I myself asked questions. So I think being here in this country, I have that privilege where I can talk about it, right? And being in India, it's a different chapter. People still talk about it. I know some people, I follow some people who do talk about it, but that's on the bigger scale. but in, smaller cities, we still don't talk about it. So I think menopause is something which every woman will face in their life, whether it's early or post. And it's important to know what are the side effects, because it's not easy to go through menopause. I now feel like I had no idea that what my mom was going through back in that time. Now I can feel that because I am going through that. I have those hormonal imbalance. I'm going through hormonal therapy treatment. I have anxiety issues. I have night sweats, hot flashes, and most of the time, that pissed off and stressed out. So I feel like this is something which people are facing when they're going through menopause, even our mothers, or everyone. But we never had an idea or education about it, so we never got it. And when I actually got the news, I never talked about that. But more I talked when I came out of my cancer, because I started writing about my journey. And that's how I, read and I came across, and I see a menopause specialist. I don't know if in India you have a menopause specialist or not, but I see a menopause specialist over here. I see a gynecologist and a menopause specialist. So I think that's where we are lacking, on those pieces, where I think our women should stand up and talk about it. So I feel in India we need to stand up and talk about these things more. I know India is growing and booming and everything is there, but why are we not talking about women health, cancer? Why is it's such a huge stigma or a taboo when it comes to health or critical illness or cancer? Why? I still don't get it.
Definitely is. A simple issue is as simple as PCOD. That is something that people don't talk about. So here we are discussing uh, menopause
Yeah.
and early menopause. Also, one thing that I wanted to know is, you were already in remission, okay, and then you got the news of early menopause at such a young age. I mean, it's difficult to imagine uh, not wanting to have the next generation or kids. It's a different choice, but not being able to do that. How did it impact you emotionally? How did you cope up with it? Because it's not easy being a woman. It's definitely not easy. So how did you cope up with it? Who did you share the news with first, and
So
how did
it's
you
still
come out?
not it's still not easy for me. When I came out of stem cell transplant, and at that moment, because all those last 1.5 year when I was going through the treatment, I really felt that I was in a full-time job where I had to like go for treatment, come back home, eat food, eat medication, again go for treatment. So all those period, at that moment, I never thought about all those things. So all those things came into my mind when I was going through a stem cell transplant, because I was isolated. And then when I came back, I started writing about my journey. What what does woman want in her life? A good family, a happy family, and that was taken away from me. So I could not do anything about it. The only thing I did good was that I asked for help. And because I could not talk to my family, because they were never talking about it, they never talked about cancer, they never talked about the pain, the experience they felt, I felt. They were there to support, but I think that's the problem in our South Asian culture. We never talk about certain things, and we let go. We let go and we move on. So I just asked for help, and I spoke to my oncologist, and then he referred me to psychologist and psychosocial. So I took a therapy, and until now I'm taking therapy. And it's not easy, honestly. I mean, being mother is something every woman wants, and it was taken away from me. And I still get, these questions all around. Like, at least you're here, at least you're living. Yes, I am, but that is taken away from me, and it's okay to grieve. It's okay to grieve about it. So there are moments where I just feel that I wish I had, and I hope one day I can adopt a girl child from India and give her that life. And that's my dream, and that's my wish. Honestly speaking, that's one of my wishes, that I want to adopt a girl child from India and give her a life, because I see today, being educated enough, we still abandon girl kids. I've heard stories, I've seen stories where girl kids are just abandoned and thrown away. So it's not easy. I just I just felt lonely when I was at the Mother's Day this last week because I'm all around with kids with my friends because I'm at that age, I'm 38, where everybody has kids, right? So yeah. But I'm thankful and grateful that I have my goddaughter over here, my friend's daughter, and I'm the godmother for that daughter. So I'm blessed that I have that, you know, thing in my life.
I'm so short of words, but I have another question. When you talk, so many things come to my mind because you're talking in so much detail, and this is something that we never ever talked about. You mentioned about your cancer, how you got it treated, what all things happened, but in the end, you again talk taking therapy so openly. Again, in India, we don't say so openly that we are taking therapy because, it is somehow it is considered a sign of weakness or
Mm.
instability. So, physically, if we have some scar or wound, it's okay to see a doctor. But when mentally we have a scar or wound, we don't even speak openly that, I need to see a doctor who can, help me fix my mental illness. That is again a very big taboo here. Since we're talking a lot about taboos, this is also a taboo, and
Yeah.
it's very difficult to ask for therapy, to even know what kind of therapies exist, where should we actually go, who should we meet, where to find good therapists. It's difficult.
And
So
also what people will think
yes, yes, we will not talk with about this with our
at
friends, we
the,
will not talk with our
yeah,
parents. How do we get to know that, when we need a therapy? Because we
yeah.
cannot even identify that this is something which is not normal happening with me. We'll keep quiet, will not identify. So how do we fix that and ask for help? It's very difficult to asking for help. How do we do that? How do we recognize that, yes, this is the time I actually need a professional help?
So honestly, with my experience, because as I mentioned, I had everyone around me. I had the full support around me. But which the one thing which was missing was a talk between us, which led me to ask for help. And I know in our culture we don't ask for help. We feel if we ask for help, we'll be like, people will judge us or people will think this about us and stuff like that. But I did that for myself because I was struggling mentally. I was struggling mentally, physically, socially, financially. I was completely lost, honestly. And I had that strong face every time just because of my family. I didn't wanted to lose, in front of them. I didn't wanted to show them that, I'm losing it. And when I started therapy, I still remember my mom and, she said, you don't need it, just move on. Just move on. How can I move on? I have lost so many things during this battle. So I think my request or my thing to everyone is that if you feel that you are feeling mentally lost or you're mentally exhausted or you need someone to talk to, please ask for help. Whether it's your friend, family, doctor, whosoever you feel. And there's no shame in asking for help. Trust me. I mean, it really helped me. It really guided me for last 4 years. And I'm so grateful that, I took that step for myself. And I would always tell everyone, and I tell everyone over here as well. I meet so many people and we talk about all of those things over here. It's the country difference, honestly. If I would have been in India, I don't know how many people talk about these things because I've not stayed there longer. But by whenever I go to India, I see a huge difference, from here and there. People do talk about certain stuff, with lifestyle, fashion, XYZ, but they don't talk about mental illness. People are going through something. They don't talk about that, which I feel is wrong. So if you are going through something, please ask for help. I would just request, please, there's no shame in asking for help. And there are people who are ready to talk to you. You just need to ask.
True. I wish you can come to India and do the stuff that you're doing over there in India as well. Uh, because your story is nothing short of inspiring, from resilience in the face of adversity to the beautiful life you're building beyond it, and also thinking about others and, using your story and personal experiences to educate others. Uh, but Harjeet, now it's time to shift the gears a bit and
Okay.
to know you outside the serious stuff, the quirks of favorites, the little things that make you the very special you. So we'll do a quick rapid fire questions. No overthinking. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind so that we get to
Okay.
know you a little bit more. Uh, Describe yourself in one word.
Resilient.
A quote you live by.
If you can't find the light, be the light.
Amazing. One thing people misunderstand about you.
You're very strong, but I had no choice. There are moments. So,
I think I have the same misunderstanding about you. You are very strong. From your story, I can
and
understand.
I think I get that from everyone. But honestly, I've seen that journey, and I know that that was the only choice I had. I had no choice. To be strong was the only choice, and I do get my vulnerable moments too. So yeah,
To get over that. Don't let
yeah,
it come over you.
yeah.
If your life were a movie, what would it be titled?
Oof, unbreakable.
One word that comes to your mind when you hear the word resilience.
Second life, rebirth.
Amazing. Biggest lesson 2020 taught you.
Survival is just not living. It's all about finding purpose.
And you found
I
it.
I I I feel that cancer gave me a purpose. I am living that purpose right now. And I believe in God, and I feel not everyone get this second life. I have seen people losing this battle. I've seen younger people losing this battle. And when I got this second life, I thought that I need to give back, and I need to support and help others who are under isolation and who can't advocate for themselves. So that's a purpose. Yeah.
So here we get to the end of our rapid fire questions, and it is so amazing to, know you from within. Um, Before we, reach to the end of this podcast, there is this last question that uh, any lesson or insight that you'd like to share with others facing adversity, what would it be?
Uh, so basically, one thing is never lose hope. And, there's always light on the other side. So that's one thing I would like to say for everyone. It's not an easy battle. I know, I've been there. Every day would be a challenge. But if you feel that you need to ask for help, please ask. That's one thing you can ask. And there are support groups out there where you can actually connect to people who are diagnosed with cancer at the early age. I did join a couple of organizations when I was struggling mentally in Canada, and that's how I found out that cancer is a huge stigma in our community. And I co-founded a page called Chai and Hope for those people, like, who's struggling and who wanted a safe space to talk. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on social media. That's my digital space. I talk about my journey through my social media. I'm also a founder of Chai and Hope, which is a South Asian cancer support group. If you're feeling you want to talk, please feel free to reach out. I can leave my details with you. And I'm happy to talk to anyone if they're going through this journey.
Awesome. It was so great talking to you, Harjeet. I mean, um, when this podcast releases and the audience will get to you, I'm sure your inbox will flood with questions, doubts, and so many other things. But folks out there, if you have any questions, doubts, or you need to talk to someone, Harjeet is the person. So you could find the entire details over there in the description box. You can also see the details of our previous podcast in our description box. Do reach out, comment in our comment section, letting us know how talking to Harjeet was. And also, if you have some other questions, doubts, or anything specifically you want to know about, we talked about a lot of taboos over here, and I'm sure girls out there, women out there will want to talk about it more. So, yes, please like, subscribe, and share, and give me your comments, letting us know how this episode was. And Harjeet, thank you so much for being with us, for accepting our invite, and letting us know your journey. I am personally very obliged to hear your story and to see a woman of strength right in front of my eyes. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you. Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you.